everyone. Welcome to Mission to Inspire. We are joined today by a lovely lady all the way from the US. And her name is Takiya Lashon. I'm gonna let her introduce herself properly because I think it's best heard from the horse's mouth. But we've got a very interesting topic to talk about today. Um, she's the CEO of Takiya Lashon Salon and the founder of Ilha. Wow. Anyway, I'll leave all that to you. Talk us through what you do so we can know you better.
Yeah, great. So thank you so much, Shola, for that intro and for the opportunity to be here. Yes, my name is Takiya. I am a mother of two. I am an author, an entrepreneur, a mentor, and a TV, radio, talk show, and podcast host.
Mhm.
And as you mentioned, I am also the founder and CEO of Heal Her, which is a nonprofit organization that offers restorative retreats for women for mind, body, spirit, and soul. Because, whether you're a mom or a daughter or a
Yeah.
sibling or an auntie, we go through things in life and sometimes we just need that break. And so, a host restorative women's retreat, amongst other things. So, I'm excited to be here.
Thank you so much for coming on our show. Um, so we will be discussing about your journey of resilience, empowerment. I can see you've been through quite a lot growing up. So do you want to share with us a moment in your life that fueled your journey towards empowerment and
Yeah,
resilience?
yeah, absolutely. So yes, I've gone through just a few things. Uh, you know, I've gone through. So we mentioned my childhood. I come from a two-parent home, mother and father, but my journey with that was a dysfunctional home. It wasn't like a horrible household, but there was some abuse along the way, some molestation that took place, and that impacted my life. And it took me down a path of being a young girl who, while I had a father figure in the home, I didn't have the actual relationship of what a father was supposed to be because he was my abuser. And so, like most young girls who fall into a situation where they don't have some sort of positive male influence or male guidance, I fell into the wrong things. The first guy that came along that showed me time or attention or said, I love you, I fell for that because I didn't have a proper model of what real love looked like. And so that led me down a path of, promiscuity and drinking and hanging out and just in the wrong crowds. And this continued well into my young adulthood. I would say up through my 20s until I had my first child, my daughter, who I had her when I was 21. And my daughter was the pivotal moment for me in my life that I began to look at my life more differently because now I'm not just living for myself. I have this baby girl who I have to take care of. I have a whole human life that
Mhm.
I'm responsible for. And so that was the pivotal moment for me that changed my life. And as I continued to endure things, that snowballed into taking my story from a place of shame and recognizing that there was power in my talking about what I'd gone through. Because when I had my daughter, all of the things that I'd gone through, of course, as a mother, I did not want my daughter to ever have to experience any of that. So I changed my life in order to change the trajectory of hers and make sure she stayed on a better path. And so my daughter really was my first inspiration, and being surrounded by other women and hearing their stories and their struggles, and them hearing me say, well, I went through this, but I overcame it. That began my journey into empowering women and just learning that we are so resilient.
Oh, well, that's great. Oh my God. That's good. So you've actually turned your challenges, you've turned your struggles into positive, and you're using that to empower other women in your community.
Yes, absolutely. Other women in my community, but my mission and my goal doing the podcast and sitting on interviews is to impact women worldwide, globally. I feel that I can do that. I feel I can come alongside with other trailblazers that are doing that
Mhm.
and just taking what I've gone through and starting within my community, but linking arms with other women, other cities, other states, other countries, and taking this program around the world.
And the world. Wow. Wow, that is good to know. That is good to know. So what is your podcast? What's it called?
Yeah, so the podcast is called Behind This Smile, THIS, because it's personalized and it goes behind my smile. It's basically the foundation for the chapters of my life. I get on the podcast and I share what I've gone through in different aspects. So the premise is we all have photos. It was born out of, one day I was scrolling social media and I was looking at myself. I'm laughing, I'm smiling, I'm traveling, I look like I'm having a great time. And, in those moments I was, but there were so many things that I was dealing with that were masked behind that smile.
Yeah.
And I remember one day just, sitting up in bed and just talking to God and saying, if people really knew the truth behind this smile, and I felt led of God. I felt him say, tell them, share your story and talk about the truth behind the smile. So I take those photos at different times in my life and I go, hey, look, I was smiling this photo, but let me tell you about what I was enduring or dealing with. And so it's me sharing those stories, and it's the platform for me writing a book of the same title, Behind This Smile.
Right. And you're an author as well. What's the title of your book and where can we buy?
Yes. So I've written and published 6 books. And so I'm a writer. I find that when I've gone through things, writing is a release for me. It's very therapeutic. And writing my first book started out just as journaling. I never intended to share it with the world, but it evolved into a book. And the name of that book is Never Forsaken.
Yeah.
And that's a memoir of my life and what I've gone through. And I don't hide anything. I share everything. I'm very transparent, very vulnerable. And I talk about my journeys. And it also has it at the end of each chapter, there's a prompt for the reader to revisit something in their life or childhood that may have similarities so that they can start releasing the same way that I did with my journaling. So all of my books pretty much evolve out of journaling or an experience I've gone through. And so Never Forsaken, I wouldn't say it's the most important. All of them are important, but it's the most impactful.
Right.
And I've gone on to write devotionals and self-care books and different things like that.
Wow. Where do you get the time? Because now I can see you have a salon as well.
Yes. Oh my gosh, where do I get the time? People ask me that all the time. And Shola, I've had to learn balance.
Mhm.
Okay. And sometimes learning balance, like even in this day and age for me, I'm 47 now and I'm just figuring it out. Like, especially when I had kids. Honestly, when I had kids, I feel like or when my kids were younger, should I say, they're older now. My son turns 21 this week. My
Oh,
daughter's 26. Yeah. But when they were
you don't
little,
look
you,
it.
thank you. I always say, thank God I don't look like what I've been through, right? Because if I did, woo. But when my kids were little, again, the responsibility of being a parent, it's just what resounded with me was I have to get up. I have to do this. I have to make time for it because I got these little people that are relying and depending on me. And so finding the time is just that. I had to find the time. Okay, if I'm going to be a mother and be involved with them and they have their, activities, like both of them were soccer players. My daughter was in band and I wanted to, and I was a single mom and I made every last one of their events. But then also being an entrepreneur, that's how I got into entrepreneurship, because having a regular 9 to 5, it just didn't work. I actually got fired from my last job before I got into entrepreneurship, because there was too much conflict when I didn't have proper childcare, my kid was sick, or and so finally I was like, you know what, I need to find a way to make an income, but I could still be a mother and be present to my children. And so that's how I got into entrepreneurship. But finding balance, getting up in those hours that nobody wants to get up. Maybe my day had to start at 4 a.m. in order for me to have that peace and quiet to focus on a project. And then my kids get up and get the day started. Now that I'm older and my kids are grown and out of the house, I'm struggling even more with organization because it's just me. And so I'm like, oh, I'm going to just sleep in, or I'm going to, but I've evolved into giving myself the time that I need also, and listening to my body. And so I don't have to work as hard as I used to. But I do have to learn to set boundaries, to learn to say no, and to know when to say yes. But also, my biggest thing now is resting and taking care of myself, because I'm no good for anyone if I'm not any good for me.
You're not exactly, exactly. And
Yeah.
it's the loss of the company that you were working for at the time when they fired you. It's their loss because now you're on your own, and I'm sure you're making good well, money.
Good money. Yes. Good money, good lifestyle, and that is such a testament to, we can have things that happen to us and we can just feel like it's the end of the world. Like, oh my gosh, I'm a single mom. I have this 2-year-old that I got to take care of. I got to feed. How am I going to pay my bills? But what that created in me, that was I say I have I forget what it's called, the proper terminology, but I say the best worst. When you use 2 words in one sentence to mean something,
Yeah,
that was one of the best worst things to happen to me, because okay, it was bad that I got fired, I lost benefits, all of that, but it was
yeah,
the best thing that happened to me, because it caused me to reach deep down into that resiliency that we talk about and go, what am I going to do? And it birthed out me being an entrepreneur, which turned out to be one of the best things to happen to me in my life. So I would just share that and focus on that to encourage your viewers and audience, if they're going through something where it seems like, well, this bad has come of it, look for the positives in that. There's always a silver lining. And, I always look at this time next year, if I'm in the middle of dealing with something so horrible or a struggle, I always tell myself this time next year, it'll be better. So just want to say that to encourage everyone.
exactly. Thank you so much. Thank you
Yeah.
for sharing. Thank you for sharing. So, your story actually encompasses a wide range of challenges, from abuse to being
Mm-hmm.
homeless. How did you navigate all these adversities to emerge stronger
Mm-hmm.
person that you are?
Yeah. The first word that comes to mind is faith, my faith, to be totally honest. I have gone through, like you said, a tremendous amount of trauma, stress, obstacles from abuse, pretty much every form, physical, mental, sexual abuse, emotional abuse. I've been homeless with 2 small children. I've gone through marriage and divorce, and I've gone through my ex-husband stalking me for 2.5 years, and not just stalking like, oh, just, hey, I'm calling to check on you profusely, but he actually was arrested for breaking a restraining order. So we're talking about real life here. So there's been a lot that I've endured, and a lot of these things have been very heavy. My daughter was diagnosed bipolar depression, and she battled suicide attempts, and just so many things over the years that, one, when I look at what I've gone through, I'm like, it's only my faith being my anchor that I didn't lose my mind. And there were a couple of times that I battled through. I had a nervous breakdown last year for going through some things, and I've really battled through to hang on to my sanity. And I can only be transparent and tell the truth that me being able to go to God and sit with God and pray and see answers prayered and see the result of that was what held me and what kept me. And reading my Bible or studying scripture and being around positive friendships also. I would be remiss if I didn't say that. I have been surrounded with such a community of amazing friends worldwide, really. I have friends in the UK, actually, and South Africa and the US. And I just have women that show up for me, that support me, and um, friendships that I can be vulnerable. I can be my true self,
Yeah.
and I'm accepted and loved for that, no matter how broken it's been, no matter how dark it's been, no matter how ugly it's been. I have been tremendously and immensely blessed to be surrounded by a village and a tribe of women that are like, okay, we're with you going through this. Or even when it was like, okay, that's enough of this, you need to get up, just all kind of friendships for every step in my life. And really, me getting into women's empowerment is because of that. Whenever I've gone through something, I went through major surgery a few years ago. I stopped breathing 3 times on the OR table. And when I came out of that,
Yeah.
I had friends. I woke up to friends there. And so for me, I always feel so grateful for that. And my first thought goes to, what about the woman that doesn't have this? And so my starting Heal Her, starting the nonprofit, doing the women's retreats, doing the empowerment, doing the speaking, that's me going, I want to be that friend to the woman that doesn't have what I have, or that doesn't have that connection. Because friendship, we're not intended to do life alone. And it's so beautiful when you do have people that you can trust and be vulnerable and transparent, and they can be truthful with you and get you straight and gather you when you're not all together either.
Yeah.
So my faith and my family and my friendships.
That's great. When you talk about your faith, when you say your faith, what faith? What's your faith?
Yeah. So I would by title be considered a Christian, Christianity. I am a lover, a follower, a believer of Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior. I say this all the time. I don't fall into traditional religion. And what I mean by that is I believe in relationship. I believe in the Bible. I believe in God. I believe what the Bible says. I believe it to be the inerrant word of God. I've seen it. I've seen the proof in my life. Um, but I believe in relationship, and what I mean by that is those moments that we talked about. How did you get through? I sat with God. I sat with, you know,
Yeah.
someone, this powerful being that I can't see, that, says that I just need to have faith to believe that he is real and that he exists. And I trusted in that. And I, every step of the way, felt his presence. I saw his hand in my life. And so Christianity is my faith. And like I said, I'm a believer, and I believe in relationship. I believe in God being my friend, which means if he's my friend, just like I talked about those friendships, I can be totally vulnerable. I could be transparent. I could be who I am. I don't have to hide who I am for God because he knows who I am, right? And he's been a father to me in those moments where I went through that abuse and that molestation and things.
Yeah.
He's loved on me like a father and showed me what a daughter is supposed to be and how a daughter is supposed to be treated. I can go on and on with the different names and meanings and aspects of who God has been to me in my life, but I identify as a Christian.
Right. Wow. That is very interesting. And it's pretty good that you're open about your religion, about your faith. So it's
Yeah,
pretty good that you're open.
yeah,
Thank you.
yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I said thank you for being open. I mean, a lot of people are
Thank you.
about their faith, so it's really
Yeah, thank you. I told God some years ago, in the midst of my going through a really tough battle and struggle. Matter of fact, it was the first time I shared my story publicly with anyone. And at the time, I just really didn't want to talk about it because it was still like this place of shame that, I've gone through this and was enduring that.
yeah.
And it was in my business. And I was talking with this woman, and she kept telling me,
Mm.
she was in a physically abusive relationship. And I just heard God telling me, you can relate. You need to tell her about your story. And I was like, I don't want to talk about it. Don't want to, ain't gonna. And I just kept feeling this urge, like, you just need to share with her, Takia. And I did. And I told her everything. And it was in that moment that woman looked at me with so much hope in her eyes. And she said, oh my gosh, if you went through that and you got out of it and you got this business and you're doing great, then I can do it. And it gave her hope. And she left that relationship. She got into something healthy. She started her own business over a year's time. And I remember telling God, if sharing my story with
Mhm.
one woman did that, I
Yeah.
will tell the world. I will tell the world about you. And so that's why I'm so open with my faith, because again, I've seen God move, and I know that what He's using, taking the pain that I've gone through and giving me purpose and a platform, it's a beautiful thing for me, but it's a beautiful thing for so many other women and so many other souls.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Thank you. Thank you for that. You've authored 6 books, like you said,
Mm-hmm.
in various topics. So not just one topic. Um,
Right.
you tell us about the inspiration behind each of this work, of the
Yeah.
projects that reflects your journey, because they're so vast. So it's just not one particular, topic.
Right.
It's so different.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that question too. So, like I said, I'll go in the order of when I wrote them. So, Never Forsaken, like I said, was my memoir. And that was born out of me just personally journaling, trying to process the hurt and, what I'd gone through. And it evolved into a book. And so that is my memoir. And that talks about my personal journey. Then the second book I wrote is actually called Memoirs of an Uninformed Beauty Queen. And I wrote a beauty column for years for a newspaper. And when I wrote that beauty column, what was so beautiful about it was the local newspaper gave me the freedom to write whatever I wanted. So I was able to speak about my faith in those columns. And that's something that's normally, a lot of times when it comes to religion and politics, those things get centered and they want you to stay away from that. And this wasn't a Christian publishing house or company. It was just your local, pretty big newspaper. And
Mm.
they would allow me to speak freely about my faith. And I intermingled my faith with self love and self care and positivity. And I wrote articles like that. And so that second book became a compilation of those articles. Okay. So, Memoirs of an Uninformed Beauty Queen is basically saying I was someone that I didn't realize the value and the beauty that was in me internally and outside. And so it was sharing that and encouraging other women. Then my third book is a devotional. I actually wrote that in 2020. And it's 7 words. Oh gosh, now I'm going to forget it. Submit, surrender, obey, prayer, praise, faith. And what it is, it's a daily devotional, and it offers just different scriptures. So it gives you kind of like an outline for how to pray or seek God or spend time with God. And it's the interesting thing about that. That was one of my favorites to write because it was done during the pandemic when the world shut down and all we had was social media. And I actually spent 7 weeks every day on a live for 7 weeks, so 49 days. And I taught and I spoke. And what I did was combine that with the devotional. So when you get the devotional, you have this outline of how to seek God or pray or encouragement and inspiration, but you have a QR code that you scan and it has me facilitating and walking you through that. So that was pretty cool. What is that?
Beautiful.
3? Yeah, I
Okay.
love that one. And then the next one was this one was called Fairy Tale. And Fairy Tale was very interesting because it was totally left field than any of my writing style because I had major surgery in 2019 and I was also going through a breakup with someone that I really, really loved, really cared about, really felt like this was my soulmate, my person for life. Um, and we had gone through a breakup, and like I said, I had the surgery, and so we weren't communicating and talking. So what did I do? I resorted to writing, journaling, to express what was going on, what I was internalizing, and I call it my New York Times bestseller, really. So it chronicled that love story, the good and the bad of it, and just the beauty, because this is someone that was in my life that meant a lot to me. And he really impacted my life in a way that I'll take with me forever. And so I wrote about that.
Wow.
And then the last two books, I did a vision, like a vision board. You know, sometimes at the beginning of the year, we have vision boards and we set goals and things for ourselves. So I released a vision planner. And then my final book is called Customer Service is Not Rocket Science, because me as an entrepreneur, one of my pet peeves is bad customer service,
Oh,
horrible customer service. Y'all stop that. I am huge on customer service. I'm huge on when someone patronizes my business, whether it's in brick and mortar, person, face to face, online, watching this podcast. I just believe that when you become an entrepreneur, you are a public servant. You are serving the public. And I just feel like great customer service is a dying breed. And so I wrote a book about it. I wrote a book for leaders, and it aligns with my business speaking and coaching, that I can talk to organizations and businesses and firms and come in and talk to their staff or their team about the importance of customer service and leadership. So,
so,
woo, that is a lot of different topics, right?
so you've combined your struggle, your entrepreneurship, your faith. You've combined everything and transformed.
Everything,
So you
everything. My love life, everything.
everything. Oh,
Yeah. And currently working on number 7, which is Behind This Smile, which is the same name of the podcast. And that one will go deeper into, Never Forsaken was from my childhood up in my early 20s. I'd written it, and now I have 20 more years of stuff to add on. So Behind This Smile will take you deeper into that.
okay. When are we expecting that to be published?
I am giving myself grace, and I'm going to say it'll be released probably end of year, because we're already almost to middle of year. So I'm going to say probably the fall or the winter. I'm just giving myself grace, because I'll tell you, talking and speaking and writing about it, it's a healing journey. And it's caused me to realize that, wow, you're still healing, because while I get on and I talk about stuff and I'm ecstatic and energetic about it,
Yeah.
sometimes some topics really take me out, and I have to sit down and process and sort through and work through that. So I'm just giving myself grace.
Why not?
Exactly. Yeah. So hopefully by the end of the year.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That's good. So we'll be expecting. We'll be expecting.
Yes. Pressure's on. I got to get it done now. Yeah.
As the CEO of Takiya Lashin Salon and the founder of Ilha, how do you integrate your personal experience into your professional endeavors?
Oh, yeah. Everything we've been talking about, really everything that I do, and I mean everything, Shola,
Yeah,
is born out of a personal experience. Like I said, writing those books were personal experiences. Um, Creating, launching, and founding a nonprofit was
yeah,
born out of a personal experience. Getting into the beauty industry, Takiya Lashawn Salon, that is my brand of salons and spas. And I actually have my own line of products that are on walmart.com. So that's pretty huge. Um, all of that stuff was born out of me going through a struggle, my getting into the beauty industry. My
right.
kids, my daughter at the time was 10 and my son at the time was 4. And I was getting out of a really bad relationship. And I exited that relationship and we ended up homeless. We had everything going into it. But in order to get out of that and have my peace and take my life back, I literally left that relationship running. I mean, pajamas on, no shoes on our feet, just running to escape because it was an abusive relationship. And I left everything. I walked away from everything and I started over from scratch. But in that, what I had was my life and my health and my children, and they were happy. And we ended up homeless for a brief stint. And the money that I had left out of leaving that, I knew I got to figure it out. I got to get a roof over our head. I got to feed my kids. I got to make sure they're taken care of. I got to make sure that CPS, Child Protective Services, or someone doesn't step in to take them because I can't provide for them. And so I took that last bit of it was, I had income tax
Yeah.
that I had filed. And so I had that money coming in. And a friend of mine had told me about a beauty course, tattoo and eyebrows. And so I signed up for that. It was just a week-long course, and I signed up for a weekend course on learning how to do eyelash extensions and brows. And I took these new trades that I had, I bought a portable massage table, and I started going from house to house and saying, hey, I learned this service. Can I practice on you? You know, it's going to be really cheap, just a cost to cover the supplies. One person told another, who told another, who told another. And within 3 months, I opened my first beauty salon because I had that much business. Okay. And it just has evolved from that. That's how I got into the beauty column. A reporter came in and said, hey, how'd you get into this? And I shared my story. She put it on the front page of the local paper. Another paper read it. They came in and said, you can write a column with us. So everything has been, number one, I believe, this is what I believe. I don't believe anything happens by accident. I believe because of my faith, I believe either this is of God or the enemy. I'm always going,
Adversaries. Yeah.
devil's got a plan. But I don't believe anything is by coincidence or accident. So even my life, there's a scripture in Romans 8:28 that I love, and it says that all good things work together for good to them who love the Lord and are called according to his purpose.
Yeah.
So even in the negativity, even in the heartbreak, the bad things,
Mm.
God walked me through that and it turned out for my good. It's beautiful. Even sitting here now, going through stalking with my ex-husband,
Yeah.
that was horrible. That was probably one of the hardest things I've endured to this date, because it really impacted me psychologically, emotionally, mentally. That's what stalking does. That's the target and the goal.
Mhm, mhm.
But coming out of that, taking my voice back, taking my power back, I launched the podcast so that I could start sharing my story and helping other women.
Yeah.
And it's opening so many doors so swiftly, so quickly. It's reminding me that the value of my voice matters, that people like you that say, hey, your story has value and I'd love to have you come sit on. This is a beautiful thing that my voice is, I'm honored to sit on this podcast and share my story and share my voice and be, broadcast in the UK. So everything I've gone through has come from pain that God said, I'm going to use that for purpose, and
Mhm.
not just my purpose, but for others who need it. And that's what keeps me going.
Yeah.
And he's also turned purpose
Mhm.
into profit for me, PROFIT. And I'm like, that's good too. So we go from pain to purpose to profit. And I just believe that's so powerful. And I'm enjoying the journey.
Oh, wow. What an amazing journey that is, to be honest. What an amazing
Yeah.
journey. Okay, so in your opinion, what are the essential steps individuals who might have been through what you've been through can, can take to transform them um, on a better path?
Steps that they can take, individuals that have gone through or are going through what I've been through, what are steps that they can take?
Yeah. What steps can they take?
Okay.
What essential
Yeah.
steps can
So
they take to transform their pain into
into
purpose?
purpose.
Just like,
Yeah. Perfect question. So I would say the first step is, number one, is going to be the hardest step, and that is to acknowledge and accept. I will say three A's come to mind: acknowledgement, acceptance, and accountability. Okay. That's really what turned my life around because, and this is what I mean, regardless of what we've gone through, regardless of who said or did what we've gone through, we
mm,
cannot allow that to stop us from living our life. Okay. I don't take it lightly. I don't make light any of the topics that I talked about. Abuse in any shape or form is a very real thing. Whatever anyone's gone through, your feelings are valid, your emotions are valid. So I'm not saying to overlook that, but what you have to do in order to move forward is you have to acknowledge, accept, and take accountability. You can acknowledge that what happened is very real. You have to accept that this is something that, while it may have happened to you, it also can be that it happened for you. Okay. And there's a difference, because if we can shift our paradigm from woe is me, you
Mhm.
know, that can take us down a path that we just stay stuck in,
Mhm.
um, our own pity parties or depression, and you look at life from the victim position.
Yeah.
And if you want to shift your paradigm into winning, you got to let go of the victim mentality. Okay. You have to accept the fact that, yes, it happened, but while it happened to me, it happened for me, because we just talk about the job. I got fired. That happened to me. But what happened for me was all this freedom and flexibility to get creative and figure out what I can do for myself. Okay. And then accountability. There are some situations, not all, there are some situations, like for instance, I would say in a relationship, one of my relationships, I think back in the past, he was somebody that I knew I should not have been with. He did not fit the bill. He had red flag. I was catching red flags left and right. Okay. And just sitting them down going, but I could change him. I could change him. I could change him.
Yeah.
And once I got through that, and as horrible as that turned out, physically abusive, the yelling and screaming, I don't take responsibility for that. It's wrong for anybody to put their hands on anyone. But I
Yeah.
had to take accountability and go, you know what? You should have made better choices. You knew better than to get with this person to begin with.
Mhm.
Okay. So acceptance, accountability, and acknowledgement. I would say that's the first step you have to take, is letting go of that victim mentality and using that as, you're a warrior, you're a fighter, you're a winner. Look
Yeah.
at what you overcame. Look at what you survived. Look at what you endured, and you're still standing. The
Yeah.
other thing I would say is you have to keep going. There's
Right.
going to be days that, even though you take on that warrior stance, a fighter. Even a fighter gets tired, right? When you see in the boxing ring, a fighter has to go down and he has to be mended to. He needs water. Those bruises are being dabbed and cleaned up. That's where community comes in. That's where a relationship with God comes in. Go sit down, know when to sit down and rest and heal from whatever trauma or stress that you are going through. Don't try to keep plowing through and ignoring it and pushing through. Take time for yourself, but you don't give up. You keep going, because in those seasons of rest, being a warrior, being a fighter, there's time to just get out there and battle. And there's times where you recoup and you heal. So
Yes.
I could probably keep adding to those steps, but those are the two things that come to mind, is just you get out that victim mentality and remember those three A's: acceptance, acknowledgement, and accountability. And just remember to rest, but keep going. Don't give up, no matter how big, no matter how small the vision, the dream, the goal is, it's attainable. And if it's a bigger goal, then you just knock that bad boy down one bite at a time. It's like the saying, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. It's a big animal, okay? But you just take it down one bite at a time. So your goals and your dreams have to be the same way. I have huge goals. God has given me, even with everything He's blessed me with, I'm just getting started, Shola. I have a huge vision. And what have I done over the years? Just one bite at a time. And things came out, life came out swinging and knocked me down a few times, but I refuse to give up. I will always get up. And so I just want to encourage, those are the steps I would say to take.
Right. Oh my God. Oh my God. How do you eat an elephant? One bite. I
One bite, one bite, one bite until he's gone. You know, he might feel that little pinch or that little jab, and he's going to keep going. But after a while, you're going to tackle it.
That's true. If you could go back in time and give one piece of advice to your younger self during the darkest moments of your journey, what will it be?
Oh man. So just what I said, keep going. Those two words are two of the most powerful words. Keep going, because looking back at the younger me, there were plenty of days that that little girl wanted to give up, that that little girl thought that her world was ending, that that little girl thought that her life was in shambles. Um, that it's, I almost want to cry. That little girl did not see the beauty of who she was going to become.
Mm,
That little girl did not recognize that every piece of pain and hurt that
mm,
she was enduring or would go through would be for the good of someone else. And that that little girl would be sitting, a grown woman now,
mm,
voicing, speaking, advocating for that little girl.
mm,
Okay. I kept going, and that's what I would say, is to keep going, because on the other side it gets better.
yes.
Something I always say is tunnels. There's tunnels where I live, there's tunnels and there's mountains, and you sometimes there's these tunnels and you drive through. It's where it's been dug through the mountain and you drive through, and I love it. I love driving the mountains.
God.
But here's life is like a tunnel. You are start on one side and you have to go through that tunnel to get to the other side. And while you're driving through, it's dark in there and you don't know what's coming, but you know that if you keep driving, you're going to hit the light again at
Yes.
some point. Life is the same way. You have to keep going, because even though you're going through something, I'm going through this, I'm going through a divorce, I'm going through sickness, I'm going through depression, I'm going through loss of a job. You're going through it. But
Mhm.
as long as you keep going, you're going to hit daylight. It's going to get better.
Mhm.
And I will leave with this final remark from a very dear friend of mine who passed away a couple of years ago. She would tell me, Takiya, life is all about moments, good moments, bad moments, happy moments, sad moments. You just have to take a deep breath and get through every moment. That's
Right.
it. Okay. That's
Mm,
what I would share. Woo!
mm.
Shola, you got me out here crying.
Oh my God. I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's
I
good
wish I
tears.
could give you a tissue from here and give you a very big hug. But
I would take a hug.
how about your hug from the UK?
Thank you. Thank you. That's a very powerful question. It's a beautiful question. And I
Yeah.
do speak to the little girl in me. I acknowledge her. I have a picture of her, me, her. Um, and I love and I protect her. I'm everything that she didn't have in a childhood.
Mm. And I'm sure your two kids, are they girls?
Boys, my I have
Oh
my
my
son is
God.
yeah, I got one of each. So I'm a girl mom and a dad and a boy mom. And woo, being a girl mom, that's why I'm like, I don't look like what I've been through, because them girls give you a run for your money because they, she's me.
And until next time, it's Shola and Takiya on Mission to Inspire. Bye. Subscribe if you haven't done so. Like, follow, comment. Until next time. Goodbye.